then we'll go into our, today I am going to go a little more fast because we are already behind on our schedule, but I had to spend more time on Karma Yoga verses because they're very crucial for our living in the world. So certain verses I will spend more time on, and we may make up in future with extra classes. So I may do that. So let us begin with our opening prayers, and we'll move on to our 51st verse of second chapter. Hari Om. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः दयाकरं दयाकारं दान्तं धर्मप्रवर्तकं प्रणमामि दयानन्दं मदाचार्यवरं परम् ॐ गं गणपतये नमः ॐ गं गणपतये नमः ॐ गं गणपतये नमः. So we are seeing the verses of Karma Yoga, this lifestyle that Bhagavan teaches us in the second chapter. He's introducing it. He will expand upon this in the third chapter. So in the next verse, he says, what happens if I follow this life of Karma Yoga? What is the result of living such a life? So the 51st verse, he says, Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinir muktaha padam gachyantya. So karmajam phalam tyaktva, giving up the attachment to karma phalam, because we know we always want this karma phalam. In two ways we seek karma phalam. We seek to earn punya so we can experience pleasant, comfortable situations in life. And we seek also to get rid of papa, which is getting rid of unpleasant or escape from unpleasant in life. So all human beings are only in these two pursuits. So karmajam phalam tyaktva, Bhagavan says, this karmajam phalam, which is the results of any action we do, we have to see as anityam. It is fleeting. Phalam, even the word in Sanskrit is phalam, fruit. Fruit is always perishable. You know, if you leave an apple out for a day, especially in India in the sun, that's it, perishable. So the karmajam phalam is also going to be perishable. And Vairagya is born as a consequence of Viveka. And who are these people? Manishinaha. If you follow this Karma Yoga, Vivekinaha, Manishinaha are the people given to discriminative analysis, to inquiry. So they have already done this Nitya, Anitya, Vastu, Vivekaha, one of the qualifications in Tattvabodha, the discernment between what is temporary and what is permanent. So they have already grown in this way. These Manishinaha, they have buddhi yuktaha, taken to this karma yoga lifestyle. They have clarity over their goal in life. They have a proper attitude in their lives to living in the world. You know, they have moved from doing karma for results to doing karma as an offering to Ishvara and receiving whatever we saw, prasada bhavana, as receiving as from the altar of Ishvara, whatever happens. And if you live such a life, Krishna says, what is the consequence? Janma bandha vinir muktaha. You are freed from the shackles of bondage. You are up on the list for Jivan Mukti. So on the Jivan Mukti list, you have gone up in the Jivan Mukti list, and you are freed from this janma and this cycle of becoming, because, we do this, we live this type of life, doing activities for results, and by the time we know it, what happens? We die off. So as I said, We just die off, we're born again. And this is where we get into that cycle of Janma Mrityu. So pain and suffering, we have to understand pain is inevitable in life. No one can avoid pain. So being born a human being, we have to experience physical pain, mental pain. It is part of the human experience. But somebody beautifully said, suffering is a choice. Suffering due to pain is a choice. So pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. You can choose to, not go along with the pain. And in life, we know that it is all painful situations do come in between the pleasant. So vinirmuktaha means one who is not interested in pain or pleasure. One who wants to discover the mind beyond both. Atma is beyond both. Vinirmuktaha means he's freed from all karmas, and anamayam padam gachanti. Anamayam means the people who live such a life, ultimately they go to an abode which is free from the disease of samsara. So anamayam actually means free from sickness and disease. Here, what is the disease Krishna is talking about? The samsaric disease of life of becoming. That is what samsara is. I want to become. I'm not okay as I am. I want to become. I want to become. So after becoming free in this life itself, that is called Jivan Mukti. After death, what happens? They gain Videha Mukti. They are totally freed after the drop of the physical body. They are one with Ishvara. They are one with the order. And Bhagavan goes on to say, what else happens as a result of this karma yoga lifestyle and knowledge assimilation? He says, Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vyatita rishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. So for karma yoga, we know a certain dispassion is required. So in the 52nd and 53rd verse, there was an elaboration of the previous verse. There is an elaboration of the previous verse. How is karma yoga related to jnanam? That is what we want to know. Yada buddhir te moha kalilam vyatitarishyati. So karma yoga is related to jnanam because when you remove the impurities of the mind, when the viveka, discernment is done, dispassion is required, then vyavasayatmika buddhi, we saw before, that one-pointed attention to my goal, which is moksha, then what happens? Then all the moha, all the delusion is gone. So a certain punya is required to cross this delusion in life. The intellect is the one that crosses the delusion. So the delusion is, not seeing the goal clearly. That is one delusion. The other delusion is not seeing what is fleeting. Everything is coming and going. Why are we attached to what is coming and going? We're sticking on to the insecure, looking for permanent security. And we keep doing that, not understanding what we are doing. So this moha, I become free of this kalilam, this dirt, impurities of delusion also, impurities of kama, krodha, moha, lobha. There are other impurities which are all actually born of ragas and dvesha, binding likes and dislikes. And tada gantasi nirvedam means, gantasi means you will cross. There is no doubt about it. Krishna says, if you practice this lifestyle, you will cross through nirvedam. You will gain a dispassion. You will want, you'll gain a dispassion to shrotafyasya shrutasya, towards what has been heard and what is going to be heard. So we have to add here what is seen and what will be seen, what has been tasted and to be tasted. We can bring in all the sense powers here. What Bhagavan is saying is that we gain a dispassion to the 5 vishayas, so sense objects, that the sensory perceptions have access to the 5-fold sensory objects, right? Sound, taste, touch, sight, all of those. I will get a dispassion towards the sensory world. And then the person becomes a mumukshu, one who is desirous of liberation, takes to this karma yoga, gains moksha, and shrotavyasya, not worrying about future, what is going to be heard also. Maybe I've got vairagya now, but somebody says something. No, this is better. So then what happens? My vairagya goes. Then I feel, oh, I'm going to go after this. So as Bhagavan says, what is still going to be heard, because many things in future, he uses future tense. What is going to be heard also, you get total dispassion from, because you know what you want in life. So Karma Yoga teaching concludes for this chapter with the next verse. He says here, Shruti Vipratipannate Yada Stasyati Nishchala Samadavachala Buddhihi Tada Yogamavapsyasi. Yada Shruti Vipratipannate. When your mind is no longer riddled with all conflicts and confusions, your mind is not deluded by the means and ends that people keep talking about in society. Whenever we have a conversation in any group, anywhere, definitely people will say something about certain means and ends. You can't escape a social gathering. Oh, did you see this? Did you get this? Oh, this new dress has come out, new fashion, new designer clothes, or this movie has come out. Have you seen this? Have you done this? Everybody usually talks about what is still to be done, and they have a big list, and they want you to join in their list as well. And sometimes we get trapped, in social, when there's a lot of social pressure, we also get trapped in their lists. Here, Bhagavan says, no, when you are clear, don't get deluded by means and ends that people discuss. Tada yogam avapsyasi. Here, he shows that karma yoga will finally lead to jnanam. In this verse, he says, liberation is finally gained. Karma yoga, we have to understand, is not a direct means to liberation, because liberation is a question of ignorance, right? Self-ignorance is the issue. So liberation is self-knowledge, can only be opposed to self-ignorance. So any activity does not have access to removing self-ignorance. You can't do anything to scrub your mind, not physically, get a brush and scrub. You can't remove the ignorance by anything doing. You can only remove through knowing. So Karma Yoga purifies the instrument to know. That is the role of Karma Yoga. And Bhagavan says here, Karma Yoga Phalam Avapsyasi. You will definitely get the Phalam of Karma Yoga, which means eventually Jnanam. After mental purification through the lifestyle, you will get Jnanam. And there is a way out of this suffering of the pain of karma and karma phalam. This is what Bhagavan is emphasizing here, this topic of karma yoga. Buddhi achala stasyati, the intellect stays steady. So when you practice this karma yoga, what happens to your mind? It becomes steady. That is called pure mind. There is no raga, dvesha, people's desires, your desires. Nothing can sway your stillness of mind. That is the beauty of this. Samadho, he says. It is resolved. You are resolved, you are successful eventually in jnana yoga, which is what we want, jnanam. So all the steps are given in this verse. Viveka, vairagya, viveka meaning discernment, and vairagya, dispassion, after you have discerned what is permanent, what is impermanent. Mumukshutva, which is a sincere desire for liberation. Mumukshutva is not an ordinary thing to gain, You can't have mumukshutva suddenly when you attend a retreat or something, mumukshutva comes. I want moksha only. Then you go back home, you want the Mercedes again. No, mumukshutva doesn't work with having your mind with desire here and there. It is the one all-consuming desire. Somebody beautifully said, this line, how do you make this line of desire, the line of desire shorter? The line of desire, how do you make shorter? By adding something. What do you add? you add another longer line parallel to it. When you add the longer line of the desire for moksha parallel to your line of desires, what happens? Your desires become shorter. Your desires, the perspective on your desires becomes smaller. So all the desires reduce in their strength when the moksha line becomes bigger. So this is how Bhagavan is saying, Tada jnana yoga avapsyasi. He now completes the teaching of karma yoga. So with this verse, he's introduced a very important topic of Gita, which he will continue in the 3rd chapter. And after Krishna has taught this, after he had taught Arjuna, he must have expected Arjuna to say what? Thank you, I understand. I'll go back to my chariot. I'll fight the battle. But Arjuna doesn't do that, right? So here, what does Arjuna do? He's got some more doubts. So Krishna very patiently continues. So 11th to 53rd verse is the summary of the whole teaching of Vedanta. So that's why chapter 2 becomes very crucial here. So Arjuna, he didn't get up and do anything because he had a doubt. Yogam avapsyasi caught Arjuna. See, if I have jnanam, so the thought must have come to him. If I get jnanam or I am a jnani, what will happen to me? Will I look different? Will I talk different? Will I walk different? How can I assess myself if I have jnanam after these teachings? So Arjuna now has a doubt. What is the practical benefit of this knowledge? Because we all want results. He wants to know from Krishna, how will I know it has worked on me? What are the signs? So Arjuna now asks, Arjuna uvacha steta prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stita dih kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. So now there's a topic change in the 2nd chapter. Stita prajnasya ka bhasha. What are the signs of a wise person, enlightened person, self-discovered person? So how will he speak? How will he walk? How will he talk? How will he move? All of these questions he asks. Prajna means the one who is, stita prajna means one whose knowledge is well established. It is firm, unshakable. There are no doubts in the mind of such a person. Samadhistasya is a adjective to stita prajna. It means the one whose knowledge is clear with reference to Atma. So the samadhistasya stita prajnasya. Hey Keshava, oh Lord, I am curious to know. Please tell me. Stita dihi, again another word for stita prajna. Kim prabhasheta, how does he speak? How does he speak? First, one way of understanding, Kim Prabhasheta can also mean, does he speak? Sometimes we think, these self-realized people can be like Mauni Babas, sitting quietly. Many people mistake, self-realization for people who are quiet. If you're quiet, you will have a lot of projections on you, So sometimes when you don't speak, then people project, oh, this is a realized person. Suppose I sit with my eyes closed, just all the time. Oh, this person is self-discovered, self-realized. This is what Arjuna's doubt is. Do I see this person as self-realized person? So, Kim Prabhasheta, will he even talk? Kim Asita, will he, how does he sit? Does he move? Kim Vrajeta, does he even move? Does he sit? Does he stand on his head? Padmasan, we don't know. Does he sleep on a bed of nails? Because we have all sorts of things that we have read in the spiritual life. Maybe the realized one sleeps on a bed of nails. We don't know. Does he stand on one leg? That's another thing that we read in Puranas, the great tapasvis. So tapas and jnanam are very different. Right? You can be a great tapasvi, person who does austerity, doesn't equate to a jnani. So many times we confuse both. So he's asking, how does the wise person live in the world? Is there any difference to normal people? So interestingly, in this verse, Arjuna's question is all, he asks everything on the physical level. How does he move? How does he look? Does he walk? Does he talk? But Bhagavan's answer to Arjuna's question is very revealing, because he doesn't respond with the physical attributes of a jnani. He doesn't talk on the physical level at all. He talks about the mind of the individual, which shows what? Only a self-realized person can know he's realized. Nobody can spot a jnani. So Arjuna probably wanted to go jnani spotting with these verses. Krishna has said you cannot go jnani spotting like bird spotting. You cannot recognize anyone as a self-discovered person, because only that person knows. Only that person knows the interactions he does. And the next few verses, he will explain these lakshanas. They're called lakshanas, or characteristics of a wise person. Is it so that we feel mediocre? We remain mediocre, say, oh, these are all wise people here. Next verses, I can still remain. I can't do all this. No. Any time in the Shastra where lakshanas or characteristics of wise people are mentioned, it is always as sadhana or means for the otherwise, for ajnanis. So where the characteristics are mentioned, we take them as means for our spiritual practice. It is also vice versa. Wherever sadhanas for ajnanis or ignorant people is mentioned, they are lakshanas or characteristics of a wise person. So it is vice versa here. So now Krishna starts talking about what this wise person will be in his day-to-day life. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanyevatmana Tushtaha Steta Prajnastadocchate. So this is a very important section. Adi Shankaracharya often quotes it. So the mind of a jnani is discussed by Bhagavan and not his external movements and his external behavior. So, hey Partha, he says, oh Arjuna, Prajahati yada kaman. As the desires arise in the mind of a wise person, they resolve. He doesn't have to do anything. They come up, as they arise, they're gone. So there is no desire as such that comes. How are they resolved? It is by knowledge. So he doesn't, sarvan kaman manogatan means the desires have no power over him. They have no power. Generally, for otherwise people, what happens when desires arise, we immediately do activity to fulfill the desires. At jnani, as the desires arise, they dissolve, they resolve. So, sarvan kaman mano gatan. And in our scriptures, there's always a differentiation between two types of desires. Non-binding. Non-binding desires means those that don't affect you whether you fulfill them or not. You can have these desires. If they get fulfilled, you're happy. If they don't, you're fine with them. But binding are the ones that we have issues with, because binding desire means what? If I want this to happen, if it doesn't happen, I'm unhappy. I don't want this to happen. If it happens, I'm unhappy. So binding means sometimes the pressure of binding desire, we'll see in the 3rd chapter, can even make you transgress dharma. So here, a jnani, a wise person, does not hold on to any thoughts. That's the beauty of it. They're resolved. As the thoughts arise, they resolve. And we can also practice this. It doesn't have to be, it is, as I said, lakshana for ajnani, but it's sadhana for ajnani. As thoughts arise, when you live an alert life, you don't have to hold on to the thought. When you don't hold on to thoughts, they disappear. The problem is we immediately grab onto the thought, then the thought consumes us, and then we act according to the thoughts. So for ajnani, it's very clear he doesn't hang on to the thoughts. So this is a practical benefit of jnanam is discussed here. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. What happens to such a person? Bhagavan says, in himself, by himself, he is completely satisfied. Without fulfilling desire, He is totally satisfied. Very beautiful lakshana of a wise person, because generally we are not totally satisfied without fulfilling desire. We only discover satisfaction in our life when we fulfill certain desires. But are they totally satisfying? No. No desire has totally satisfied us, right? How do we know? Can everybody hear? I don't know if this weak internet. Can all hear? Yeah. So, how do we know that we are not fully satisfied by our desires? Because another one comes up and then I go after to fulfill that. That is the very symptom of one desire not giving me full satisfaction. So he is not like this. He tushtaha, he is in himself. He is happy without nimitta, without any reason. He is happy. That's why sometimes you read, of some books you may read of these Ajnani being like a madman. He may certainly laugh to himself. You may think, oh my God, he's really weird. But we don't know. He doesn't care. He is happy in himself. He may feel so much joy. His upadhi just expresses the joy. So, Atmanyevatmana tushtaha means he has discovered himself in the form of fullness. He is full. And stita prajnastadochate. He is the one, Bhagavan says, of steady wisdom. He is together established as a person, as a wise person. So the rest of the verses now are commentaries on this verse. Now the next one he will say, how does a wise person react to the opposites in life? How does a wise person react to the pairs of opposites? So he says here, Dukkeshvanudvigna manaha sukeshu vigatasprihaha vitaragabhaya krodaha stitadir muniruchyate. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. He is not at all affected by any of the adversities in life. So, unpleasant, any adversities, he doesn't get moved by it at all. If he loses, what we call loved one, for him, everybody is loved. If he loses, he may shed a tear because he's playing a role. He has to show. He doesn't say, ha ha, doesn't laugh when somebody dies. He will always play the role properly. Although inside he is totally unmoved, he may shed a tear or so because other people are all crying for this person. He may shed a tear in adversities, but inside, dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, his mind is still, it is calm. So situations that cause unhappiness for ignorant people do not cause unhappiness for him. He is never overwhelmed by challenges in life. His life is what to so what, very quickly. What? So what? So that is his reaction. He knows also he can't escape prarabdha because as long as he is in the physical form, prarabdha will continue, which means the karma he has to exhaust in this life, it will continue. So he is ready to face unpleasant and he is the same in pleasant as well. Sukeshu vigatasprihaha. Sukeshu means in favorable, pleasant situations, he's not so overexcited. Most people, when things happen very favorably, what happens? Thrilled, excited, they jump, they laugh, they, scream sometimes. Some of these game shows, if you watch, you can see what elation is. When they win some car or something, they will be screaming, crying, everything, so elated to have that prize. And that is what he's saying. Going up like that, you will come down like that. So, Sugeshu Vigatasprahaha, this jnani doesn't get carried away in life. His mind doesn't get robbed away. Vitaraga Bayakrodaha means he is established in himself. So Vitaraga, he is beyond raga, attachment. He's not attached to anything. He doesn't have bhaya, fear, because there's no second thing to be afraid of, right? He knows there's no fear for him. And krodaha, Krodha, he doesn't get angry, because what is there to get angry about? Desires suppressed only manifest as anger. He has no suppressed desire. And such a person is Stita Dihi. He is emotionally well. He is emotionally sound. His mind is tranquil. He has no more demand from the world to give fulfillment for him. So to have achieved this type of reaction-free mind, the jnani will definitely have to have followed disciplines that are recommended in the Shastra. And those are being said in the next few verses. Next verse. Yes sarvatra nabhisnehaha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. Yes sarvatra anabhisnehaha. So sneha actually means sticky, viscous, something that sticks to you. Friendship is called stickiness in Sanskrit. You stick to somebody. Abhisneha means excessive stickiness, excessively sticking to people. Sthita prajna is not hooked on anybody or anything. He doesn't depend emotionally on anyone, because there's nothing for him to, nothing for him to get attached to, because he recognizes we're all one. If there's only one, who is there to get attached to? So he's not dependent on anyone or anything for his happiness. See, sneha is good if it is not conditional, but in our lives, sneha is conditional, right? You scratch my back, I scratch yours. It is always like that. So when there are conditions for friendship, then it is not healthy. But a jnani will have pure love without conditions. Only a jnani has unconditional love, because he helps people. His nature is to help people without seeking any return or reward from anybody. He doesn't even want to be loved back. That is called pure love. So love all. The practice is love all, but don't hold on anywhere. Don't get stuck to anybody. That's why in those days, generally the sannyasis, there's a recommendation to not stay in one place for a long time. Usually only 3 days they were allowed to stay in one place. Can you imagine? 3 days, 3 days, 3 days moving. So you don't set up any roots in any particular place, and you don't form attachments. That's the reason. But if you're free, like a jnani, you don't have to practice that. You can be in a place for 100 years and not get attached. So it is a different thing in knowledge, different thing in practice. Na abhinandanti shubham prapya. He doesn't rejoice gaining conducive, pleasant situations. Na dveshti ashubham prapya. He doesn't become despondent and depressed when he gets unpleasant things he doesn't like. Na dveshti, he doesn't hate them. So he doesn't have this dvesha and raga. Again, he doesn't have it. He is mentally immune from everything that manifests for him in life. So this also somebody asks, somebody may wonder, how come a jnani gets unpleasant and pleasant situations? Will he not be free? He is already happy. Just because one has knowledge, does it mean we don't have to experience life? Just because we have knowledge of something, does it mean we are exempt from experiences? No. Suppose I have studied medicine. I have studied medicine. Does that make me free from disease and illness? No. So by the study of something, even Vedanta doesn't make you free from the experience of what you have to go through. So jnani will have to go through pairs of opposites like everybody, but he is the same. Tasya prajna pratishtita. He is well established in his wisdom. He doesn't get swayed. And now Krishna comes with he brings in practices that a jnani must have done as shama, dhamma, living an alert life, sadhanas for mumukshus. So he says, yada samharate chayam पूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियानिन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः tasya prajna pratisthita. indriyan indriyarthebhyaha. So all at once his senses are withdrawn from sense objects. When there is some danger, when he feels the mind is going to get trapped in some sense object, immediately he is he's able to withdraw, because he lives in a very alert life. He has lived. Now it's natural as a jnani, but he has lived a very alert life. Now the withdrawal happens spontaneously. So the efforts are only for people doing sadhana. This mind, why is this being said? Because mind gets disturbed by the objects of the senses. When we allow things in, even, watching the news, we think we're not getting disturbed. But all the news is usually bad anyway. If there's any good news, the channels will not play it. Somehow a human mind likes to have bad news. We don't know why. Goes towards something, some war, terror, this, that. So don't disturb. Mind gets disturbed by objects of the senses. But this jnani is not a slave to the senses. And a very beautiful analogy Krishna uses here. He says, Kurmonga nivas samharate sarvashaha. So like a tortoise or turtle and tortoise, if you touch the shell, what happens? Immediately goes inside, right? So it's spontaneous. It just goes in. You just touch it and it goes inside the shell. So for a jnani, he looks at something. If he feels the mind going out, go back in. Very quickly it happens. He doesn't even go out to sense. He conserves that power of the senses because they don't even go outside. And he is very safe inside his shell. He's very happy. Atmanyevatmanatushtaha. He's safe inside. The mind and senses are automatically withdrawn into himself. And he's, not doing this with effort. For the ajnanis, ignorant people, dhamma, this is the practice of dhamma, to be able to withdraw your sense organs and your organs of actions from the external world. Because dhamma and shama are very important for atma jnana nishtha, for abidance in self-knowledge. This practice of withdrawal of sense organs from sense objects and shama, resolution of thinking patterns in the mind, they are practices for a person who wants this self-knowledge. Too much indulgence also, will weaken your sense powers. So constantly eating sweets, everything. There's so many, tongue is the greatest indulgence, no? We like to keep eating, even if we're not hungry, just because of taste, we will keep putting things in our mouth. And it weakens the power within. Your willpower actually becomes more weak when you expend your energy in sense pursuits. So this is a constant alertness in one's life. So verses dealing with sensory regulation now, 58 to 61, Krishna discusses, and this is very much needed for the mind to be calm. How does a wise person manage to do this? How does he do it spontaneously, without efforts? Krishna says now, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So when we forcibly withdraw from the sense objects, sometimes there is a longing left. When we're practicing this, I don't want that sweet. I don't want that gulab jamun. Sometimes you get your jalebi or gulab jamun. I don't want that extra sweet. But then the thought remains, oh, it's so tasty. You remember it more, right? Sometimes when you're very attached to a sense object, when you're forcibly withdrawing, there is a raga. It is called a longing that still remains. But a jnani, he doesn't have that raga. So mental addictions may continue, but not for a jnani. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha. Rasavarjam means that he will not feed the senses. The senses come back to themselves, and the longing is remaining behind. So the longing is gone for him. Rasavarjam means this longing. He doesn't have the longing at all. the raga has gone for good because he has grown out of desires. He hasn't forcibly withdrawn, he has grown out of the desires. And niraharasya. Niraharasya means, ahara means food. And food in Sanskrit does not mean only through the mouth. It means through all the apertures of the senses. So niraharasya means he doesn't feed himself through all the sense apertures. So he is rasopi param drishtva nivartate. For a wise person, the raga, the longing, is resolved in the steadiness of knowledge. He is very steady in the knowledge. So it is resolved. In the case of a jnani, he is totally instant dhamma he practices. All the diversions don't distract him anymore because he is very committed to his path. He knows what he is. Therefore, he has discovered the truth of himself. So now I will take one more verse. Bhagavan cautions now. Dhamma, if it is not practiced, if we allow the senses to run riot, what happens to the mind? He says, Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini haranti prasabham manaha. Indriyani pramatini. The sense organs are very, very powerful. Pramati means a churning rod, actually, to churn butter. So the senses, they churn the mind because they drag the mind outwards and make you forget yourself. Haranti prasabam manaha. Haranti means they rob you. Hari comes from haranti. Hari and hara means the ones who rob you of your papa karma. They rob you of unpleasant reactions in life. So haranti prasabham manaha. They rob, they take over the mind. They make your mind weak, mechanical. So thoughts are no longer in your hands to manage because they drive you. You are not in control of them. So here he says, vipaschitaha, the one who has viveka, who knows what they want in life, the moksharti, the mokshartis, the ones who want, even those he warns here, be very careful. Even if you're on the path of liberation, even if you want spiritual knowledge, the senses are super powerful. They can rob away your vairagya. They can rob. Yatatopi kaunteya means even if you're making a lot of effort in life, you're striving to practice this dhamma, you can fall at any time. At any time, you may fall. We have seen this in many of, some stories in our Puranas also. We see Vishwamitra, great sage. He did so much tapas, so much austerity he practiced. And somebody wanted to disturb that, because there's always jealousies between this. Somebody does more tapas. So he was, this beautiful damsel was sent from heaven, Menaka. Menaka comes and Vishwamitra, in the middle of his tapas, what happens? He gets distracted by the beautiful, alluring form of the female. And, of course, we know what happens next. X-rated next section. So he gets distracted, all that tapas. He was a great rishi. Even the rishi gets robbed with the senses. So that is what Bhagavan is saying here. Dhamma is emphasized here. Don't give scope for the mind to be carried away. So withdraw from sense objects by living an alert life. Otherwise, the mind will be taken for a ride and there can be a fall from all the practices you've been doing. Viveka, you can fall from. Vairagya, you can fall from. One can easily revert to the samsara lifestyle because it is so alluring. It is so enticing. So Bhagavan says here to all, be careful. he warns us all, be careful, watch what you do in your life. Watch what you have to deal with in your life. Because if you want this Atma Jnanam, these Lakshanas are not easy to practice, but one has to make it a thing to practice them on a regular basis. And of course, practice makes perfect. So with that, I will finish for today. I'm not able to. Can people still hear me? I don't know. Because everybody looks like frozen for me. I will just see if you can unmute.
You can hear you, Guruji.
You could hear, okay. I hope the whole class was clear. So you could hear the whole thing? Yeah, good. So let us just chant. You can repeat at home the verses that we have seen. And I will send the recording and you can practice from 51st verse. You can repeat after me, yeah? Karmajam buddhiyukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha.
Karmajam buddhiyukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha.
Janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantyanāmayam.
Janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantyanāmayam.
Yada te moha kalilam buddhirvyatitarishyati.
Yada te moha-kalilam buddhirvyatitarishyati.
Tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha.
Tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya ca.
Shruti vipratipannate yada stasyati nischala.
Shruti viprapannate yada stasyati nischala.
Samadhavachala buddhihi tada yogamavapsyasi.
Samadhavachala buddhihi tada yogamavapsyasi.
Arjuna uvacha
Arjuna uvacha
Stita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava.
Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava.
Stita dih kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim.
Sthitadi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha
Shri Bhagavan uvacha
Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogataan.
Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogataan.
Atmanyevatmana tushtaha stita prajnastadochyate.
Atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthitaprajnastadochyate.
Yes sarvatra nabhisnehaha tat tat prapya shubhashubham.
Yes sarvatra visneha.
Yes sarvatra nabhisnehaha
Yes
sarvatra
visneha.
tat tat prapya shubhashubham.
Tatra prapya shubhashubham.
Nabhinandati nadveshti
Nabhinandati na dveshti.
tasya prajna pratisthita.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Yada samharate chayam
Yada samharate chayam
kurmunganiva sarvashaha.
kurmoganiva sarvashaha.
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
विषया विनिवर्तन्ते
विषया विनिवर्तन्ते
निराहारस्य देहिनः
निराहारस्य देहिनः
रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य
रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य
परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते
परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते
यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय
यततोऽपि कौन्तेय
पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः
पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः
इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि
इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि
हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः
हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Hari Om. Namaste to all. I will see you all tomorrow morning, your time, afternoon, India time. Namaste from Rishikesh. Hari Om.